And meanwhile, here's what ranking Democrat on the House Intel Committee Adam Schiff said yesterday after Attorney General Jeff Sessions testified before that committee in a closed session.
I do want to express my concern over his refusal to respond to what I think is a very important question. I asked the Attorney General whether he was ever instructed by the President to take any action that he believed would hinder the Russia investigation, and he declined to answer the question. There is no privileged basis to decline to answer a question like that. If the President did not instruct him to take an action that would hinder the investigation, he should say so. If the President did instruct him to hinder the investigation in any way, in my view, that would be a potentially criminal act and certainly not covered by any privilege. So it was disturbing to me that the Attorney General would not answer the question as to whether he was ever instructed by the President to hinder the Russia investigation in any way.
A Justice Department official confirmed to NBC News that Sessions declined to answer questions about his conversations with the president, quote, but he also said the same thing he has said before, that he has never been directed to do anything illegal or improper, period.
Or that he's ever met Russians. John Hyland, you brought up Mark Rogers also.
Mike Rogers. At the same time, in the list that we had of reported instances where Trump tried to pressure someone to end the probe, we mentioned Dan Coates. It's also the case that was reported at the same time that Mike Rogers, the head of the NSA, received the same kinds of phone calls from Trump. So that's another part of the pattern that you're pointing to. And to go to your earlier point about what would have happened if you had tried to engage with the Ethics Committee, just take it to the presidential level. Imagine a parallel circumstance in which Barack Obama did what Donald Trump is now accused of doing. Imagine what would have happened to George W. Bush, to Bill Clinton. Any of those people, if they had done what Trump is now being accused or reported to have done here in the New York Times, any of those people, there would be calls for impeachment that day.
I remember the Clinton White House, I've said it before, in 1993, got somebody from the FBI over to help him work on a statement to end the Travelgate investigation.
Remember that well.
My God, a nuclear cloud rose over
week of coverage.
HC5 among the Republican caucus. Yes. I'm wondering, though, is there any chance that if you have, obviously, Mueller is investigating obstruction of justice. So if he had interviewed, and I speculate, I know nothing here, of course, and that's always a safe assumption to make. But if he's investigating obstruction of justice, and obviously he knew about these calls, if he called Sessions in and asked him, did the president ever ask you to drop this? Could Sessions have not answered that question because it is an active part of the obstruction of justice case against Donald Trump? I don't know.
It's hard to see how he couldn't answer that, because we don't even know under what privilege he's evoking to not answer it in front of Congress. And so at what point is he, to your point, unable to use that privilege, especially with Mueller? So, and also the president, too, in terms of obstruction of justice, at what point is it not good enough for him to say, I didn't know any better? Because these things happen. They establish a pattern. And if you look at how Mueller has conducted previous investigations, for example, with the Enron investigation, he went in waves. And the first wave with Enron was stringing these guys up on obstruction of justice.
Right.
And now, at what point do you reach a critical mass of multiple pressure points where you can no longer say he didn't know any better?
And so, Steve, my question here specifically is, though, could Sessions' non-answer be telling us something about Mueller's investigation? And again, I have no information, but if I'm Mueller and you're the Attorney General and you're Sessions and I bring you in, I said, listen, it's obvious that he's called senators, he's done this, he's done that. Did he ever ask you specifically to derail this? And let's say Sessions said he did. And then Mueller might say to him, okay, thank you. Just, if you can just keep that under wraps, we're please don't tell anybody the part of the investigation.
So you think Mueller may have already called Sessions in and had this conversation with him? Is that what you're saying?
It's possible. I'm trying to figure out there was no good reason for Jeff Sessions not to answer that question unless Mueller had told him not to go there.
There's another good reason for him not to answer that question.
I said good reason.
Well, okay.
There's a slimy reason not to answer the question.
Which is
he's covering up for Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Or that if he told the truth.
There's a good reason to
is that he had a choice of either telling the truth.
Slimy reason.
To elaborate on it, if he told the truth, he'd be indicting Trump, not legally, but
implicating him.
And he doesn't want to perjure himself. He'll eventually, I think, Sessions will end up in front of a grand jury on this question.
Well,
Mueller will eventually, I think.
Look, I think Sessions is too smart to perjure himself.
But this is
okay. So therefore, I think the fact that he didn't answer the question means that there's something there that he didn't want to say that would either make Trump look bad or actually perhaps cause Trump legal jeopardy. And I think at some point, whether Mueller has already found out the answer to that question or not, he will find out the answer to that question when he interviews Sessions.
So people working in the White House who watch TV for a living because they have to, because their president does, what are they thinking at this point? Like, they're going to be paying legal fees for the rest of their lives, and that's if they get lucky.
Oh, they figured that out
a long time ago. Are you kidding me? Why would you do this? Still ahead on Morning Joe, we'll have more on the plan the White House is considering to replace Rex Tillerson at the State Department. Plus, drama over the Republican tax plan has Mitch McConnell scrambling. We'll tell you where things stand right now. But
thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.